have requested to have Michael Gidlewski, a speaker who's coming to us to the Presence Summit July 15th in just 2 days to try to help us understand our unique communication styles. It's so important not just to understand your own communication style, but perhaps the people that you're communicating with in order to not only have good communications in person, but obviously online, as we're doing so many more Zoom conference calls and distance learning. Online communications have become critical. So Michael Gidlewski from Achievement Unlimited has agreed to share with us some of the great things that we can learn about communication styles. Plus, he has a free online assessment that we can take that will tell us about our own personal communication styles. Hi, Michael. Thank you so much for being here today.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My pleasure to be here.
So, Michael, you're going to be presenting at the Presence Summit. That's why we have some of the branding on here. We're testing all of that out. I have your presentation that I'd love to share, but why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and what we're going to talk about today?
Sure. I was in the wholesale distribution business for 25 years, and I was in charge of 100 to $500 million operations, and always trying to figure out how do I motivate my salespeople to sell more. So I learned about communication early on, that everyone is internally motivated, but everyone has different communication styles. And when you learn their communication styles and speak in that language with them, everyone is, you create a win-win for everyone. So everyone goes to the bank in the sales sense.
Cool. Well, that is awesome. It's really great to hear. And now today we're talking about translating some of those things that you've learned for educators, for teachers. Yes. And teachers today have been asked to change the way that they communicate, and in person, in class, to distance learning. And we realized that after I took your assessment, your communications assessment, and learned how to my own personal communication styles, but also from learning from you how important it is to understand and recognize communication styles of others. And so I'm excited to share your presentation and get down to, how educators can use this information as well.
Yeah, imagine being a teacher and creating a climate for learning where everyone is engaged, because the teacher is speaking in the individual language of each of the four styles of communicator, identifying those styles and then communicating directly and more effectively with the person in their own communication style. So that's pretty powerful.
Great. Well, we've got this awesome presentation that I want to go over today. It starts off by asking the great question: what type of communicator are you? And Michael, I'll let you take this one away. I'm excited to learn, not just for myself, but for our audience watching it live as well.
Sure. When you think about communication is the very foundation of our ability to be successful in every single area of our life. So the more we are able to build strong, valuable relationships with everyone, then again, we're creating this win-win. So Paul, are you going to put those slides up, or are we just going to?
Yeah, Michael, are you going to put those slides up? All right, we got the slides.
There we go. Okay, so what type of communicator are you? So we're going to talk about that in a moment, but let's look at the next slide. Why is effective communication so important in life, love, and leadership, and learning, and teachers? It impacts absolutely positively every single area of our life. And the more that we learn how to be a better communicator, just imagine someone is speaking another language and you don't know that language. There's not going to be a lot of communication going along, right? But if we learn to flex our own communication style with the other person's communication style, we will be able to make some really, really good quantum leaps in communicating. And it's so very important because, well, if you go to the next slide, we'll kind of get an overview of the communication style that we're talking about is DISC. It's been around for a really long time. Actually goes back to the ancient Greeks. But this style is a universal language of observable human behavior. That's one of the things that's really powerful about it. You can just observe people in your classroom, and then you will start to identify their style by the click on the next slide, the next part of that rather. DISC is the language of how you communicate, okay? So by observing and by listening, and think about the Presence Summit coming up in 2 days, right? The being present. That's what a lot of this is all about. When you are truly present and mindful to the student that you are talking to, you can start to watch how they communicate. It's an observable language. Yes, the assessments are great, and they can focus right in on exactly that style. But we can observe their style and have a great ability to get it right the first time. Also, something we should note that a person's behavioral style or their DISC style is not what makes them good or bad, right or wrong. It just is. And they're successful leaders, communicators, teachers, business people in every one of the 4 DISC styles. So you want to be careful, because the DISC styles are not meant to pigeonhole people. Oh, only high D's are great leaders, or high I's are great communicators, or whatever. We want to identify that style in that person and then communicate in that style. So let's go to the next slide, because the next thing that's really important is to identify your own style, okay? Before I can flex my style, I need to know what that style is. I need to understand my own style. Number 2, I need to understand and appreciate people who have different styles. It's really important to grok this fact, to get the fact that not everyone communicates the same way. That's why when we meet people at a party or a social event or wherever, and they communicate in the same style we do, we're like, oh, that person's just like me. So just like looking in a mirror and talking to myself. Well, that's true, because they're the same style. You get along instantly and immediately. Develop a process to communicate with different styles. So being aware as a teacher, as we get into this, there's DISC style, D, I, S, and C. If you have people with a S style in your classroom, they'll most likely never volunteer an answer. So when you can identify who those people are, you can ask them a question and engage them. In business, I do this all the time. I do a DISC assessment with the groups I'm working with, so I know who's what style, because I know the S's and C's won't be as volunteering of information as the D's and I's will. So it's what you do with who you are that counts. That is so important. It's how we play on our strengths and minimize our weakness, which is most important. And as a teacher, imagine connecting with every student because you're connecting with their own personal style. Engagement will go up, participation will go up, learning will certainly go up, because you'll be speaking to them in a language that they identify with. And all people are great in their own unique and wonderful way. Every one of us have unique talents and abilities that we bring to the classroom, that we bring to the game of life. And our ability as a teacher, as a communicator, to be able to tap into that is magical. Again, once you start to tap into that, you understand where that person is coming from. It's much easier to be successful with them. So let's go to the next slide, because this gives us we talked about this being a universal language, but the D, I, S, and C, those letters are in a way, they're like hooks that you would hang your communication style on. Okay, so the dominant person is the high dominant person is a person. It's how they address problems and challenges. The high D is always looking for results. So the students in class are always raising their hand, they always want to get an A. They're looking for results. The high I's are how you influence situations involving people and contacts. So D's are about task and results. Uh, I's are about people and contacts. So they're extroverts. They how they succeed in life is by engaging other people to get them on their team. It's kind of like the Tom Sawyer, right? Getting everybody to paint the fence for him. That's how high I's motivate the team. And if you look at the next style, the S, steadiness, is people that have the high S steadiness uh, feature is how they demonstrate pace and consistency in their environment. So that the S is always looking for stability. In the classroom, they want to know their their biggest concern is stability, not a lot of disruption. Where high D's can be disruptive and take disruption and get over disruption pretty quickly. S's want to know what's the process, how do I do this? They don't wing it. They want to know exactly what the process is. So if you engage an S in a question, they might give you the whole background. So again, knowing that S style, if you ask who discovered America, and maybe the answer is Christopher Columbus, you want to frame your question so that you don't get the whole backstory with a high S, right? And the high C's are very, very compliance driven. Dot the I's, cross the T's. They're task oriented. They are more introverted. They are more reserved. Again, they'll be in a classroom all day long, and you won't hear a peep out of them. They're looking for the facts. They like show me the facts, right? They want to know the facts. So if you identify those, who are the students in your classroom with those different styles, then flex your own style, you will be in a much better position to have a more effective and engaged classroom. Let's go to the next slide, because this gives you this is what I would call like a cheat sheet, a quick cheat sheet on how to identify. There we go. So D, I, S, and C. The C's and D's on the top half are task oriented. So that's one clue. Folks that are looking for results, students that are looking for results, they're probably D's or C's. They're very task oriented. S's and I's, on the other hand, are very people oriented. I's are, thank God it's Friday night, every night of the week. Anytime they can be around people, people give them energy. They love people. So they also, high I's will be the students in the class who will do what? They'll be talking to everybody else in the class. So again, understanding that puts you in a greater position to help them become more engaged and learn more. The S's are people oriented also, but they're more reserved, and they're family oriented. So their family at home is family to them, but then when they go to school, that school or university becomes another family. If they're doing things in the community, Habitat for Humanity or United Way stuff, that becomes another family for them. So they're very family oriented. Now, outgoing and proactive people are the D's and I's. Those people are extroverts, off the wall. They're very outgoing. They're very proactive. The other side is reserved and reactive, the C's and the S's. C's and S's, again, will not say anything in the classroom, or they won't volunteer. You have to engage them. You have to call on them, and then they will answer and be engaged. But if you sit there for a day or a semester and don't call on a high S or a high C, the likelihood of them participating in the class are very low. And this was a real game changer for me, learning this DISC model when I was doing workshops, because obviously the D's are engaged, the high D's, the dominant, the results oriented, and the high I's are, right? And I wonder, the other folks sitting there, like, are they Are they with me? Are they here, or are they checked out somewhere? And then when I learned the style, I just learned to reach out and engage them. And they were very engaged and had great, valuable information. They were great participants. But had I not understood that they are more reserved, more introverted, and are not going to volunteer information, they would have left our meeting or our workshop, or in this case, our classrooms, uh, with a lot less value. Okay, we could be gaining so much more from I's and C's if we could engage them. So it's a pretty powerful process that that just really helps us, communicate. If you hit that next slide, Paul, the golden rule, I'm sure you've heard of the golden rule: do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Well, that's great if you're a high D and you meet other high Ds. You're doing, the golden rule works great. But the platinum rule says, no, do unto others as they want done unto. So whatever my style is, if I meet you and you are a different style, and I learn to flex my, let's say a high D, I'm very dominant, results oriented, a driver, boom, 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 get the job done, get the grades, get the accomplishments, get all the awards. If I understand my style, when I'm talking to an I or an S or a C, and I communicate with them in their style, I'm going to have a greater chance to create a win-win. If I communicate to every other style except the high D and my high D style, I'm going to be, I'm not going to be perceived very well with everyone. I could probably be more perceived like the a-hole in the room, right? Because I could be obnoxious and dominant, and I want to achieve results at all costs. So that's why it's so important to understand that. And once we get that platinum rule, the platinum rule, do unto others as they want done unto themselves. Whew. Imagine being able to apply this model in school, in your church, your community, your neighborhood, everywhere you go. You would be a leader beyond the beyonds. You would be able to once you have master your own style, understand and master your own style, and then you start to master other styles, you will be able to live the platinum rule. And this model, just like lots of learning, is worthless unless you internalize it and live it. If you know it's like study for the test and get an A on the test and forget everything you learned, not much valuable in life. This model for teachers and students is one of the most powerful tools to help you keep the students engaged and create a win-win for everyone. So there you have it.
Michael, that was incredible. Let's pull up Julia and Tess and everybody else. What a interesting presentation. Julia, I know you took this communications assessment, and then you said, Paul, you got to take this. We really need everyone in our organization to take this. I know that you were outgoing, Julia, but what were the takeaways when you took the assessment?
The takeaways were really something, because instead of looking at somebody's typical way of responding as, oh, that person isn't interested, or they're not understanding, you really take into consideration, well, they're just at a different, communication style, kind of like what just Michael alluded to. And I just find it so interesting, and it does, you never quite understand why when you're at a cocktail party, you really hit it off with someone. And I think a lot of that rings true is because, oh, wow, we're both really high on the I. We're really like into all these different things that sort of all have the same end result, where it's high engagement or, really out there among people. So I thought it was really interesting. And Michael, I just have a question for you.
Yes.
How are you finding all of this research and this information in light of what teachers and instructors are facing now? given the fact that they are completely forced to be online,
Right.
at least for the past several months. How do you kind of tap into some of these communication issues in this sort of a dynamic?
Well, I think that's these communication issues are extremely important, whether you're live or in virtual climate that we are in. So I think it's even more important because now when I do these workshops, mostly ongoing clients, I have their disc style and I can engage them. But again, you see the picture, the body language. Some people, well, now we're making it mandatory that everybody has to have their video on, because at least we know if you're engaged or you're not. You're out, your picture's there, but you're out to lunch, right? So it is important, way more important than ever in this environment that we live in, to understand the communication styles. I facilitate a small group, meditation group on Saturday mornings, and there's people in there that are C's and S's that contribute tremendous valuable input. They will never raise their hand. It's just not the way they're wired. It's not their disc style. But when you ask them, hey, what are your thoughts on that? Fill in the blank. You want to write notes or click your recorder, right? They're so good. It's like, wow, you're sitting there for 20 minutes and you didn't share that or whatever. So yeah, I believe that it's. I wish I would have had the tool early on in my career. I had no clue that people had different styles, and when you communicate in their style, powerful.
Yeah, it's so important, because I think right now instructors are sort of like, they're focused in on some other things. Like there's a lot of nervousness because people are, are my students able to log in? How's their internet connection? And am I going to get everything covered in this session? And I think there's just a lot of overall, given our current state of affairs, especially with not really knowing what the fall is going to bring, there's a lot of anxiety, right, for instructors. Yes. So I think that this may be one way that if they say, hey, you know what, let's kick off the fall semester. I'm going to give you guys this survey, and probably good for middle school and up, or high school and up.
Yeah, I'd say probably high school and up. Yeah. Yep. Very, very valuable. Yeah. A friend of mine's a teacher at Westchester University. She's got a doctorate, and I guess initially were going to open, and she wanted to be in the classroom because, again, eye contact, but you're right there. You can reach out to the people, walk up and down the aisles, right? So, but it looks like for at least the first semester, they're going to go all Zoom or whatever technology.
That's right. That's right. They made that announcement just last week. In fact, our producer here, his wife is an employee and student at Westchester University. So we did receive that news as well. So some other, universities it still remains to be seen, but so important. Thank you.
Yeah. And the assessment's free. Go to President Summit. There's a link right there, and do the free assessment and join us in 2 days at the President's Summit.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with us, Michael. This has been very informative, and I know that I will be referencing my personal assessment and thinking about the folks on my team and how they communicate. So I really appreciate your time today. That's all we have, everybody. Don't forget to check out Michael's presentation. You'll actually get a chance to join him in his Zoom breakout sessions to ask more questions and interact with him on July 15th at the President's Summit. So you can learn more at presentsummit.com. Thank you for watching, everybody. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael. See you, Paul.
Right,
bye, Julia. Bye, Michael. Bye, Taz.
Bye.
Bye, Taz.